Hello, welcome back to another day of Crypto Observance with the Crypto Observers, a podcast that lives on the frontier of the cryptocurrency revolution.
It's important to note that these are just our observations and not to be considered professional financial advice.
But we are active investors in cryptocurrency, as well as experienced entrepreneurs on the pursuit of financial freedom while exploring new ideas, emerging industries, and the limitless potential of the future. Hello, welcome to another day with the Crypto Observers. It is October 5th, and the market is looking sideways. We're going to get right into it. We've got a lot to talk about today, including B.A.K.K.T, the recent market crash, and what looks like a recovery.
Yeah, everyone, welcome to another episode. Grateful to have you here, and ever since it looks like we've recorded our last episode, a lot's been going on. We've seen a lot of action in the market, a lot of low numbers, like shockingly low numbers. So we definitely wanted to make an episode talking about that, and kind of had been holding off making an episode to see what the market was actually going to do. And like Christian said, right now it's October 5th, Saturday.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes. Let's see what's going on. So, as most of you know, B.A.K.K.T recently opened up trading, and I've got some questions around. I don't even know if B.A.K.K.T is officially open trading or not. I know that B.A.K.K.T has now been released to these institutions, and they can get on this platform and invest in cryptocurrency. But how does that affect the consumer?
Right. So I want to emphasize that we are the observers of the cryptocurrency, and that a lot of this stuff is really new to us as well. So whenever we heard that B.A.K.K.T was launching, we started doing a lot of investigation into what that meant, and we kind of wanted to maybe draw up an infographic or something for you all to kind of demonstrate just our understanding.
Yeah, and I'll put that right here. So if you're watching this on YouTube,
hopefully this area will be occupied with a bit of information as to what we've gathered about what B.A.K.K.T really is. And we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. But I wanted to thank you all again for joining us for another episode. We've got a Facebook page that is up and running, so you can check that out. Also,
Crypto Observers on Facebook.
Crypto Observers on Facebook, as well as YouTube. We're going to have some merch that you'll be able to purchase if you're watching this on YouTube. So we've kind of been trying to find other outlets for getting the name out there for Crypto Observers, and just what we do is keep tabs on the market, and the cryptocurrency market is consistently changing.
And speaking of the cryptocurrency market, we have Litecoin at $56. Again, it's October 5th. Bitcoin still down at $8,108. Ethereum Classic playing around at $462. I've been keeping an eye on EOS, which is at $297. XRP stuck at 25 cents. We've also recently got invested in ZRX, and that is at 22 cents. If you've been keeping track of that, it was recently at about 18 cents. Also got into Basic Attention Token at about 16 cents, and it's been fluctuating a lot. Recently got up to about 20 cents. It's at 19 right now. So those are great gains to see over the week, especially after the recent crash. And going into the crash, I have some of my own theories on that. Mendy and I have been going back and forth.
Yeah, holy market crash, totally. September 23rd is whenever B.A.K.K.T was put into action, as far as we understand, or introduced to the public and able to buy futures.
Right,
so
Bitcoin futures.
We were really just we paused and went back to learn about what futures are and how the different markets are affected based off of that platform being introduced. So, Christian had a theory right away that it would drop the prices.
Yeah, I think that B.A.K.K.T, perhaps even on purpose, put out a lot of publicity about this new platform and how it was going to drive a lot of volume into the cryptocurrency market. And I do believe that's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen as quickly as they made it out to seem. There's a lot of advertisement around the release of B.A.K.T. It was delayed several times over the last couple years. Finally released. There's not a lot of action happening in the cryptocurrency market. So I think that some of their advertisement caused a false belief that the market was going to have this boom all of a sudden. And then the price fell. Well, if you're an investment institution, one of the best things for you is a crash, because then you can buy all of these high value assets at low prices.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of thinking that B.A.K.T, perhaps on purpose, I can't really say that, but I'm going to say it, would have...
Allegedly,
that's a good word. Yep, I'm going to say B.A.K.T allegedly foresaw that their advertisements would cause this hype. Thus, when the release came about and there was not a bunch of volume brought into the market, there would also then be a panic. And in that panic, people would sell off their cryptocurrency thinking that this is the top of the market, this is highest as things are going to go. And just as the prices fell, we saw, quick support levels at 8,000 for Bitcoin and 56, 57 for Litecoin. And there's obviously a limit to how far down you can drive the market. But I'm thinking that right now, B.A.K.T is likely in the background. A lot of these financial institutions are in the background buying up this cryptocurrency at these lower prices with the full expectation that we're going to see triple the price of a lot of these coins that are available right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like that's not what has been in the foreground, though. It's kind of actions that are in the background, again, to maybe manipulate the market. It's as almost like a alleged investment strategy for B.A.K.T. That would be, from my perspective, what I would see is going on, because it seems like as time has gone on, like again today, we're seeing that the market is going back up, and we've reached, a week and a half, 2 weeks since
the release of B.A.K.T.
Since the release of B.A.K.T. And at the time, it seemed like all of the larger, like the bigger coins, like Bitcoin, Litecoin, all of those were falling rapidly, but the smaller coins remained more stable and even tend to be the only ones that made any gains on certain days. So that's really interesting to just preview just several days of fluctuations with the bigger coins. And then we kind of been talking a lot about, Christian and I have, about investment strategies now that this new variable has been added into the market, or added to the platform of understanding for us. So we've got more to learn about as far as what ICE is. So that was one area that we kind of started investigating a little bit, in the international exchange.
It's actually the Intercontinental Exchange.
Yes, excuse me, the Intercontinental Exchange, also known as ICE. Really terrible choice, I think, there for name.
Yeah, right. Strange correlation with the
whole border control agency,
right.
The ICE agents that are really out to pick out individuals who are not here legally, which we really don't support that at all. I don't support that agency, so it was kind of a drawback for me just to see that name be used again on a financial platform.
Right, a huge financial institution that has the same
abbreviation
acronym as the what is that even? What does that refer to? The Immigration Control Enforcement or something like that?
Yeah, it's something similar, but it's just the acronym for it that was throwing.
So that is really interesting, because in a way, ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, almost works as a gatekeeper or a border control, if you will, for a lot of the new commodities or any type of new investment platform that comes out. They are the gatekeeper that decides whether or not that is released to the public. There's a lot of regulatory departments within the United States government itself, but then there are these big private investment companies like the Intercontinental Exchange.
Which is similar to the New York Stock Exchange.
Yes, they're actually the parent company. So the Intercontinental Exchange, I'm going to fuck that up a couple times, is actually responsible for finding commodities that have values in society and then creating platforms that common consumers can then go and utilize these platforms to invest in these commodities. So they are responsible for the New York Stock Exchange, which has allowed American investors for the last 100 years, I'm not even sure,
right,
to invest in stocks of public American companies or publicly traded companies. Now there's B.A.K.T has been released. It's actually going to be a cryptocurrency platform almost at the same height as the New York Stock Exchange. And the New York Stock Exchange is a testament, I feel like, to what we're going to see happen with cryptocurrency. And the same company that's created the New York Stock Exchange is behind B.A.K.T, and I don't see them investing in something or backing something that they don't see having the longevity to be around in 40, 50 years.
Right. So it's the same, essentially, like the same growth structure, the same root system, same foundation as the New York Stock Exchange, which B.A.K.T is sitting on.
And it's so early right now, it's really only like one portion of that larger platform.
Right.
So when we look at B.A.K.T and we look at Bitcoin's future trading, that's all they're offering.
Right.
And whereas the New York Stock Exchange is going to offer futures trading and a variety of trading options.
A lot of different ideas for trading. I feel like it is a good idea for them to set up a whole other exchange for cryptocurrencies, because blockchain in general can be applied to many other platforms other than just the cryptocurrency. We've been talking about tokenizing other services and the way that you can apply blockchain to just about any other facet of a service that can be tokenized, and then tracking or sorting the information in a way that currently isn't even available. So that brings a lot of potential to the table when it comes to exchanging goods and services, even overseas.
It does bring a lot of potential to every industry, really. I mean, looking toward the future. But still kind of staying on B.A.K.T, I think it's important to realize that, again, that's only a tiny portion. B.A.K.T is only offering one option of trading, whereas the New York Stock Exchange has several. Mm-hmm. So I think in the future we're going to see B.A.K.T open up and offer those multiple options of trading, not only for Bitcoin, but also for these other cryptocurrencies that are on the market.
Right. And also, with our research that we've been doing, we've learned that the futures trading, as you've said, is it's really hard to understand from my perspective why any individual would want to set up some type of contract to do this, where they're not exchanging. Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about Bitcoin's future. So futures trading, in essence, is the idea that you would make a contract to sell an asset on a specific day for an agreed upon price, or otherwise you would purchase an asset on at a certain date at an agreed upon price.
Right. So if Christian and I were in an agreement, say, I would be selling at a future date at an agreed upon price. He would be buying it in the future at an agreed upon price.
So, for instance, with Bitcoin, it is currently at $8,000. If we were to engage in a futures contract, let's say that I, being the seller, I would sell my Bitcoin to Mendy on a specific date. So let's say
my birthday next year.
All right, yeah. So a year from now, if I were to sell you or trade you a futures contract, and let's say Bitcoin's 8,000 right now, at that point I would say, all right, we're gonna exchange this Bitcoin, one Bitcoin, in 2 years for $10,000, because I believe that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up that high. Futures trading doesn't actually work that way. Typically, you're going to have a time frame of either a day. So you would be betting that daily cost of Bitcoin that day, the Bitcoin's either going to go up to a certain amount or down to a certain amount. Either way, you're going to sell it for the agreed upon price, whether or not those gains or losses occur, and that person is going to pay you whatever you agreed upon. So a few ways that this can work in your favor is, let's say that you have only one Bitcoin right now valued at $8,000. You then engage into a futures contract and the price of Bitcoin declines to $5,000. However, your futures contract was set up to be paid for the amount of $10,000 to be paid to you. So you have now hedged against that loss from the decline in the price of Bitcoin by investing into a futures contract.
Right, yeah. So in essence, I just struggle to find the application in just everyday financial gains, but I do see why that would be just one outlet, I guess, and one of the first services that they would host on the exchange, and potentially more, like in the future.
Definitely going to be more in the future. Futures trading, for whatever reason, and I'm not really clear on this yet, is what they decided to go with first. So if there are some traders listening, some people that really watch the charts, talk to us, get in the comments and let us know, what do you think the value is in B.A.K.K.T offering Bitcoin future trading, and how do you think this will affect the future of cryptocurrency? I, on one hand, would say that though we're not seeing the success of it right now, we are going to see a flood of volume into the market.
Right. So it's almost like trying to understand how this puzzle piece fits into making the big picture in the future.
Yeah, because eventually these institutional players or these big investment companies are going to get more and more behind cryptocurrency until the mainstream or the consumer has the opportunity to walk into their local bank and put $500 into cryptocurrency without it being something that they have to do hours and hours of research on. They actually have their bank's resources being applied to, securing some kind of return on their investment.
That's I think what it might be the most driving factor is the security aspect of it. So if you did have, for instance, like, say somebody wants to take out a loan for a certain amount of Bitcoin, and they are betting that it's going to be at 11,000 by Christmas time this year or something like that. You could essentially set up an agreement that says that the bank has a future that would potentially pay that amount despite if the amount was that high or not. So
right, true, yeah.
So they have to in some way set up a fail-safe or like some type of trust false net in order to make sure that they're not losing more than what they're gaining on these.
Yeah, definitely want to watch out for the volatility of cryptocurrency, but I feel like the banks, the real players in those investment markets, they already have the resources to determine or to predict collapses in the market, falls in the market, and it's really just a matter of offering that to the normal customer.
Yeah.
So once everybody can go and get access to cryptocurrency, whether it's a futures
like
contract,
an ATM, essentially.
Yeah, or just a purchase at a retail store. The main thing that really needs to happen is mainstream adoption.
Right. The adoption process is really, I feel like, will take hold once people understand that volatility within the cryptocurrency market is just because we're in the beginning stages.
Right.
And once it becomes more stable, the potential for it will go up. And I think you can get a lot of just a preview from the past, the yearly lows for Bitcoin in particular. Like 2012, the low was $4. In 2013, the low was $65. In 2014, it went up to $200. 2015, it was back down to $185. So I'm sure that in those periods of time, that the cryptocurrency name in general, because Bitcoin was the leader in the market, that it was probably getting a lot of bad reps at that time because people were investing a lot of money and they were seeing a lot of drops in the market.
Yeah, a lot of volatility.
Right.
I mean,
and then to 2016, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but 2016 it jumped up to $365. That was the low. $365. And 2017 was $780. And then 2018 was $3,200. The low. So the highs, I feel like we can definitely focus on those as well to see just how high the potentials are. But whenever you see that the lows have gone up consistently every year, even this year, it's really, I haven't seen it much lower than 7,800 or 8,000.
Yeah, about, I think 7,900 was maybe the lowest it dropped. What you can really tell from those lows is that anyone that stayed in Bitcoin for a certain number of years, let's say 3 years, has made a profit.
Right.
So even though there are drops in the market, and I think that's what scares a lot of people, they see these drops in the market and they're like, oh no, I'm not going to make any profit, I've lost all my money. Well, it's kind of a long-term game, and if you stay in it, and clearly looking at the chart on Bitcoin, as the lows continually increase, and what that means, people, is that every year the lowest that Bitcoin fell was a little bit higher than the last year.
Subsequently, except for in 2014 and
with
2015.
Some exceptions. But that means that the lows, they're rarely ever going past where they've been before.
Right.
And so that shows you the potential of the market. It shows you that the market is growing, it's climbing, and it's just like a kid. Eventually, it's going to be working a 9 to 5 and bringing home the bacon.
Right. It's coming into, I feel like it's toddler stages now.
It's
been in its infant stages.
But it's growing.
I would say we've seen it starting to walk at about 2014. 2015, it was doing some falling. We were like, can it even run? And then in 2016, it showed us it could run, 2017, 2018, it's been taken off. So I would say it's really in its toddler stages.
Yeah, I would say it's honestly
toddling
just
around.
now, right, just kind of wandering around, talking maybe, barely even mumbling words. It's very
And we're at the cusp
young.
of seeing just how much the blockchain software, I suppose is what we could call it, how much we can apply that to other fields. So I know in previous episodes we've talked about doing that, and we've been learning a lot again about how to track essentially any type of service that you want to offer. So I did find a video on LinkedIn that was talking about how you could track artists' work. So whenever you're typically trying to sell your artwork, you can sell it to one buyer and the next person could buy it for more from them. And that leaves the artist essentially not making any revenue long term. But with this, if you were to implement some type of a blockchain for the art that's been created, the artist would then be reimbursed every time it was exchanged or valued higher because of its ratings or, because of its exposure. You get a lot more kickback and support for the artists and have them creating more work because they're able to actually make that full connection.
Yeah, and that's also going to keep the actual creator's information logged with the art. So I think we were looking at a documentary and it discussed how there are artists that create these brilliant paintings and then somehow someone buys it and then goes to they sell it at an auction, and let's say they bought the painting for $200. Sometimes these paintings can sell at an auction for $2 million, and the artist doesn't receive any of that. They get the initial $200 that they were paid, and there's not even a way to document that information for the artist to actually receive their income. So what Mendy's proposing, or an idea that's circulating in the cryptocurrency atmosphere, is that we could use blockchain, which is the what would you call it, the behind the stage
right,
operation.
it's almost like the operating system for cryptocurrency.
Yes.
The blockchain itself can be applied to just about any outlet if you think about.
Yeah, just about. So just like Mendy was saying, it can be applied with the idea of logging an artist's information with their painting, and then also making sure they get paid and keeping track of the value of that painting, so that as time goes on, you can see that at one point someone paid $2 million for it,
Right.
and the value should increase, and that artist should continue to get the rights for that.
Yeah, there are so many different kinds of artists too. It's not just painting. There's clothing artists. There are just a universal application of that type of blockchain software could be put on any type of creation.
Yeah, I would call it rip-off proof.
Right.
I think that our society right now needs a lot of rip-off proof, as much software as we can get.
Yeah, and it would keep essentially keep monopolies from happening, because anybody who came up with, this idea, they could potentially patent it on some sort of a blockchain. The ideas are endless, from voting in my mind to vehicles to real estate, all the way to just social security
Anything,
cards.
up to your identity.
Yeah, it's mind bending for me to try to apply all the ideas of where blockchain could really.
I mean, theoretically, if you really want to step out on a far limb, we could even get to a point where blockchain is utilized to, let's say that there was a way to digitally capture our thoughts or our memories.
Right.
Blockchain could be the technology behind logging those memories into a system where they can't be
altered.
Yeah, they can't be altered or changed.
Right.
And we can always go back to that, and we can maybe relive our lives or leave memories for our kids in some kind of blockchain vault.
Right. The future of this is really it's so exciting. It's exciting.
Extremely exciting.
And we like to think along the lines of how to apply things to like AR and VR. So Christian and I were just talking the other day whenever we were at a restaurant about
creating tabletops.
Right.
The idea of tabletops that could potentially host an augmented reality application.
Right, and you could even pay with cryptocurrency at the tables, where there's like a table that's interactive. You order your food, you pay with it in whatever cryptocurrency that you prefer. And even as you're ordering, you could see potentially just like a VR description or an image or a full-on visual of your food on your plate, and decide if that's what you want to eat. You could swipe left and not get that. You can choose from just more of a diverse experience as you go. It could change the entire restaurant experience.
Implement really anything, and it would depend on, let's say, the restaurant's taste and what they want to offer to their customers, but it's really limitless. And eventually we could see that in every restaurant where everyone's just sitting down. You come in, perhaps there's not necessarily a server, and you sit there and you can order your food on the table. You can have the kids draw or watch a cartoon. Obviously something even more interactive than that, right? There can be images and shapes and characters that appear on the table, 3D, right there in front
like
of
the
you.
Mascot for the restaurant could be the main waiter for each table. So
and
it's
just appear with a little bit of comedy, a little humor, make jokes.
A little bit of charisma to
and
where
it's just programming.
It makes you feel comfortable. But I feel like we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more of that. And it seems like with the implementation of the blockchain and cryptocurrency, things like that will be easier to come to the market, because we aren't seeing people capped by working at like a software development facility where they have to like go through the chain of commands to make this real.
Yeah, and I think that is becoming more and more of a reality, simply because people now have the access to more information. So you can utilize this information to research what other industries are doing. And when you find out what those industries are doing, you can kind of turn that into something more practical for yourself. So let's say that there is an industry that's making these tabletops, or they're making augmented reality glass. And they don't really have a use for the glass. It's just that they make it and you can order it. So you can look into a way that, okay, how can I order this glass and make it suitable for a customer, make a product for a customer that they are willing to purchase from me. And I think, just like we were saying with the tabletops, that's one implementation for augmented reality glass. So if you find a company that's selling that, you can begin manufacturing those tables and then find a customer that's willing to purchase it.
And kind of connect the dots from there.
Yeah, and you could do that with anything that's emerging right now. There's so many things. A lot of gurus will tell you to get into digital services. And the idea behind that is that you don't have an overhead. You're simply creating something out of thin air and then selling it to customers. And though that is valuable potentially, there are also things that are tangible and physical, and they are going to lead our society into a direction unforeseen.
Right.
And I think that looking into those industries and really just trying to get a grasp on it, maybe practicing in your garage, building something, even if it doesn't work, take that failure as one step closer towards your success and just keep trying.
Yeah, just keep trucking forward to find a path that has not been taken yet. I feel like that's really the leading the forefront of industry right now. They're moving in directions that haven't been touched yet, and that's really exciting to see.
I think we were talking the other day about frontiers not really existing anymore on the earth.
Right.
And I do have an idea that technology is kind of one of the last frontiers here on earth. And if you were to look at the front of that and see, you can see that there are people at the front of technology creating new things, right? And anytime something new is created, it creates a new market because there's some kind of flaw or there's some service that product now needs in addition. And that creates a market for other people to come in and say, hey, I have the solution for that problem. And that just keeps happening.
Right.
So I think people get stuck in ideas like everything new has already been created. And that's definitely not true.
Right.
We've been experimenting with TikTok. And
yeah, that's been fun.
It's a new app, but it's kind of still the same idea.
Right.
And even so, it's giving people the opportunity to recreate things and to create new things, and it's giving them an entirely new platform to be discovered, and then you can funnel that back into whatever you were doing originally. So just keep an eye on the front of emerging technologies and see where that takes us. I think that we're really in the middle of a new internet bubble, and if you can get some roots planted now, whenever this thing pops, I think there'll be some people still standing in a good place.
Yeah, I feel excited to be putting our roots into this place right now. That way we're starting our fundamental understanding of what this market is going to grow into. And yeah, it's been really exciting being introduced to it. Again, like, I'm really grateful to you for bringing my attention to this growing market, because I feel like everybody kind of does feel this necessity to try to find what is the next big thing, the next wave that's coming to the future, and being ahead of it, right? So that, at least that's for me. And
right, I felt that too.
I noticed that was a drive, and it maybe, if nothing more, just more of a push for you to get there and help other people get there also.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely.
kind of why the podcast seems like such a good idea, to kind of just take our observances and just share them, and also asking for feedback. We really value the feedback, and also we would really be interested in, we're trying to develop ideas around meetups.
Meeting with other creators, content creators, or people that are just skilled and
or interested in the cryptocurrency
have
community,
knowledge in other markets like cryptocurrency or 3D printing
or AI.
VR, AR, which means augmented reality and virtual reality.
Right, and also I'm really interested in holistic health and nutrition, and also yoga. So right now I feel like as we kind of move into winter, some goals are to meet with other individuals, maybe have them on our podcast, talking about cryptocurrency or other relative topics. We've been also discussing starting other podcasts. I have a 9-year-old daughter who's been just discussing trying to start her own makeup podcast,
which is awesome.
Yeah, really excited for her to be
just coming up with her own things, creating her own path,
and her own creator.
And it's cool to see how these new technologies are giving even younger generations a chance to build something of their own. Whereas, Mendy and I are a little bit older. Veda's gonna have, or her daughter's gonna have, several years to build a foundation and to experiment with these platforms, fail or win. she'll have tons of knowledge that other
Right.
people around her just won't be able to obtain.
Right, good experience that you can apply to in the future. Any project that you might want to do when you're recording and editing. And yeah, it's just really, she's homeschooled also. So I think it's good to kind of always have her working on different projects and experimenting, even if it's not a success. You know, she kind of learns through every failure and doesn't get too upset with it because she recognizes, you know, there's things she's more passionate about. So that's pretty cool. I feel like that.
We gotta all kind of be more like that.
Right. It moves her kind of ahead in ways that I feel like I wasn't allowed to think for myself or develop ideas and around things that I wanted to do in the future in such a way. So, yeah, it's pretty cool to find how cryptocurrency like has been fueled by the blockchain, and in the future the blockchain can be applied to just about every service industry.
Yeah, and I think that we'll continue to get further and further into that topic as we see those developments come about. It's been a pretty good episode. I think we're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah, I just want to again say thank you for tuning in. We really value your presence and that you've listened to our content, and we value your feedback.
Yeah, we do. And we just want you to come and be a part of our community. Again, that means leaving comments on the YouTube page. We're also on Spotify. So if you're in the car, you got a long drive, you can look up Crypto Observers. And this will be our 3rd episode, so plenty of content to keep you entertained.
Yeah.
We also have some links. We'll leave a brief description here after the podcast, and you can check out those links under the video. You can also reach out to us at observescrypto@gmail.com with any questions or any topics that you'd like us to discuss in the podcast. We want to know what questions you guys have.
Yeah, we're really grateful to have your perspectives and observances that you've made brought to our attention so we could have more things to talk about on the podcast.
So that we can make our content relevant to you and help you learn the things that you are actually interested in learning.
Yeah, or if you have any questions, let us know. Again, we're not financial advisors professionally, but we do make observances on the daily about what's going on in the crypto market.
And thanks again for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you all have a lovely day.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Crypto Observers. As always, we had a great time and hope you did as well. Tell us how you feel in the comments, like us on Facebook at Crypto Observers, and be sure to follow us so you don't miss future episodes. In every episode, we try to provide our listeners with beneficial resources that can make you a better crypto investor and a more successful entrepreneur.
So if you're new to cryptocurrency and simply want to start investing with as little as $5, Coinbase is the place to be. With an intuitive user interface and live monitoring of your portfolio from your phone or computer, Coinbase is the perfect online exchange for beginners, and even more for experienced investors. Use our link to get $10 of crypto for free when you invest your first $100.
Are you struggling to make online payments? Does your bank charge unnecessary fees? Need a checking or savings account fast? Consider switching to Chime Banking, an online banking platform that provides you with all the same resources as a traditional bank. Easily get a checking account with accessible routing and account numbers, cashback savings, a custom debit card, and above all else, no fees. Use our link to create an account today, entirely free.